We've talked a lot about guards. We will continue to talk a lot about guards. But what about center? What hope Wendell Carter showed and why he needs plenty of redemption, plus a lot more from NBA Finals Game 1 today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is June 6th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2011 or 2012 season. It's been a long time. I've seen a lot of stuff here in Orlando. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we've talked a lot about guards, but I see your comments. The Magic need a center. Why Wendell Carter can still be the answer, and what redemption he has in front of him next season. We're going to talk about his season coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day. And we truly appreciate you if you're one of our everydayers, making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Of course, with the NBA Finals currently going on, check out our great sister podcast, brother podcast. I don't know what relations we are. Check out our cousins, Locked On Pacers, Locked On Thunder, and of course, Locked On NBA to get your fix of the NBA Finals. We're all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Wendell Carter entered this season with one goal in sight. He told us exactly what he wanted to accomplish this year. He was hoping that he could get through the season healthy. It has been the criticism, it is something I have pointed out, that you have to just assume Wendell Carter is going to miss 15 to 20 games. And you need a starting caliber backup center behind him. That's, unfortunately, I don't think that's Mo Wagner as much as I love Mo Wagner. Goga Bitadze has stepped in and filled that role. And we'll talk about Goga on a future podcast as well. But Wendell Carter wanted to accomplish this goal. And almost immediately, he hit a setback. A leg injury slowed him down. The same time Paolo went out, he missed that game against Cleveland, the first game that Paolo missed. And then he returned against Dallas later that weekend and injured his knee. And you could see how visibly crushed he was. That something beyond his control would prevent him from achieving his goals. Wendell Carter missed, how many games did he miss that? Wendell Carter missed 13 games. Already behind the 8 ball on that goal of trying to play all 82. And again, he understood a lot of that wasn't in his power, but he wanted to achieve this goal. But Carter delivered the rest of the season. Carter did not miss another game after he came back until the penultimate game of the season against the Indiana Pacers, who we'll talk about in a minute, against the Indiana Pacers, in a game that had no consequence. He played a career-high 68 games. If there's one thing we can say about, he played, I believe it was the most consecutive games that Wendell Carter had played in his career to this point. We can say a lot of things about Wendell Carter, and we're going to. But Wendell Carter achieved this goal of playing every game, of being available, of having that basic skill. If your best ability is availability, Wendell Carter was available. Unfortunately for him, that is where a lot of the positives end. There are good things, so I'll mention some other things. I'm a Wendell Carter defender. I am noted on that. But Wendell Carter did not deliver elsewhere. He averaged fewer than 10 points per game for the first time in his career. On a team that needed shooting and scoring, he shot sub 30%. Career low 9.1 points per game. 7.2 rebounds per game, up from his 2024 number, but not the number that a lot of people want to see from his center. Not a big shot blocker, blocking just 0.6 shots per game. He shot a career low 46% from the floor, shot a career low 7.2 field goal attempts per game, and made only 23.4% of his threes, the worst mark since he arrived in Orlando. Wendell Carter will be the first to tell you that he can be very hard on himself. He can get down on himself. And you could see it happening in real time. This is not a guy who's trying to be bad. This is not a guy who does not believe in his skills, but you could tell very quickly if Wendell was going to have a good game or a bad game offensively. By his own admission, this is something he has to improve. Now, Carter will not put the blame on anyone but himself. Like, he knows he has to be better and is hoping that this offseason changes things. It's difficult to remember this, but Wendell Carter missed a lot of time last offseason. Last offseason, Wendell Carter underwent surgery on his left hand and couldn't really do much until later in the offseason. So the hope is he has a full offseason now. Like, obviously, he was dealing with some injuries that were not publicly reported. He acknowledged that he was dealing with some lingering injuries because he was trying to play that probably sapped him and made his offense look a lot worse. Wendell Carter just didn't have the year everybody wanted to, and certainly for a team that is so desperate for offense and so desperate for anyone who can put the ball in the basket, having another center who is a perimeter center, he is not playing around the rim, having a perimeter center who is not able to shoot hurts you. And so if you think that the Magic should prioritize center and should look for a replacement, you're not wrong. I'm a Wendell Carter defender, and I will be the first to say, yeah, I'm not sure Wendell Carter is the starting center on the championship team version of the Magic, but I also think there are bigger priorities to fill. And, Wendell Carter's defense, and especially his defensive versatility, are so difficult to replace. Not to mention the fact that Wendell Carter has one more year left on his old deal before a new extension kicks in next season that ups his salary pretty significantly. Having said all this, Carter was one of the few players that improved in the playoffs. He averaged 10.2 points per game and grabbed 10.8 rebounds per game. Outside of Paolo and Franz, he was the only player to average in double figures during the playoffs. And for all the things that we felt the Magic did well against the Celtics, their defensive switching, their physicality, Wendell Carter was a big part of that strategy. Last year, he had a career best 3.0 defensive win shares and a plus 0.9 defensive box plus minus. Only Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Franz Wagner had more defensive win shares this season. Opponents shot 48.8% against Carter, which, again, considering he's defending a lot of centers, is really good. But that is still 2.7. That is 2.7 percentage points worse than expected. So good defender. And it was the best mark among all the starters. In fact, opponents shot 57.2% against Carter at the rim, according to Second Spectrum, a mark that only Jonathan Isaac bested. Yes, for all of you that think Goga Batadze is the better rim protector because he blocks a ton of shots, Wendell Carter actually proved to be a very solid rim protector and continues to prove that he's a very solid rim protector. Carter's just not out there getting highlights. He's not flying around for block shots. He's not going all over the place. But unfortunately, offense matters. And so as we look ahead to the 2026 season, Wendell Carter has to score. He has to be a reliable three-point outlet. He has to be a dunker spot outlet, which he got a little bit better at lobs and playing above the rim that way. He's got to become a little bit more of a spacer, whether vertically or horizontally. And by vertical spacing, I mean, pressure on the rim. And pressure above the rim as much as on the rim. There's still a lot to salvage from Wendell Carter. But what cannot happen is Wendell Carter reverting back to how he played in Chicago. The uncertainty, the lack of confidence, the hesitancy to attack. And that's what we're watching from Wendell Carter. And that's ultimately the analysis the Magic have to make if they are going to address the center position. And it is very possible they could. I'm not going to throw that off the table. I don't think that's where the priorities are. And We'll talk about the latest rumors that would suggest that it's not. But Wendell Carter has proven that he fits this team's defensive identity to a T. He does all the things the Magic want him to on defense. It's like everything else, just about scoring and just about putting the ball in the basket. And that's where Carter will have to improve next. We're going to talk next, though, about Game 1 of the NBA Finals, why the Indiana Pacers look exactly like the Orlando Magic. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, like what Tyrese Halliburton did on Thursday. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. We all know that someone like Tyrese Halliburton is going to show up in the biggest moments, but when he struggles like he did, betting that he'll have a big fourth quarter could help you make that big buck. Plus, what would it look like to combine live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds? How could a $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? If you're new to FanDuel, this is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. It is the talk of the league. The Indiana Pacers, once again, with an improbable comeback, ending with a game-winning shot, stunning the NBA world and taking a 1-0 series lead in the NBA Finals. This is a series, kids. This is a series. We are not looking at a sweep. I certainly thought that was a possibility because of how good Oklahoma City is. Indiana did not play a good game. I didn't think Oklahoma City played a particularly good game either, because Oklahoma City, with all the turnovers they were creating and generating, could not score off of those turnovers, which is something they do not do. They kill you when you turn the ball over. They need to be up 20. They never pulled away. They let Indiana hang around. And when you let Indiana hang around, Indiana plays 48 minutes. They do not skip leg day. They do not quit early. They play 48 minutes. And as I'm sitting there watching, and obviously, like, the Magic don't have a Tyrese Halliburton. Like, he is a shot creator, like, big shot maker. You know, they're not the Pacers. They don't have the pace. They don't play with the speed that the Pacers play. So coming back from 15 down in the fourth quarter, not an easy thing for the Magic to do. And that's even ignoring, that's assuming their offense is functioning. Nevertheless, I watched that game one, and that fourth quarter of game one especially, and just kept thinking to myself, this is so similar and so close to what the Magic can do. Like, I could watch that, and yeah, like, look, they're their own team. They're a better team than the Magic. I'm not pretending otherwise, although the Magic match up very well with Indiana. They were doing a lot of things that I know are intrinsic to the Magic's identity. It is that never say die attitude. You know, our good friend Mason Williams, formerly of Magic on SI, during the Magic's first game without Franz Wagner against the Suns, the Magic were winning that game and playing hard. And I turned to him at that point, and I thought I did this during the Heat game. I didn't think I did this during the Suns game. I turned to him at that point and said, this Magic team doesn't quit. You better kill them, because they're not going to die. And that is the Indiana Pacers. Like, that's how I described the Magic in December, and I think we could all agree that's how they played. That's the Indiana Pacers during this playoffs. You don't coast to victory against them. You've got to beat them. And that, honestly, is the greatest compliment that you can give a team. Because if there is a possibility to win, they're going to take it. And so Oklahoma City just left the door open. They didn't leave much room, but they left it open just a little bit. and they couldn't put them away. The Thunder missed some shots maybe that they should have made, and I thought their offense in the fourth quarter just kind of went to the tank. A lot of isolations, not a lot of trust in passing the ball, not a lot of trust in Jalen Williams, not a lot of trust in Chet Holmgren. And this is kind of the weakness of the Thunder is it's all Shea. Or it's not all Shea. They have other ways to score, but when things get tight, it's all Shea. Indiana got big shots from Nembhard, got big shots from Siakam, got big shots from obviously from Tyrese Halliburton. They got big plays from Miles Turner. The way Indiana played throughout that fourth quarter, the constant pressure on the rim, the getting to the foul line, the tough defense, that never quit attitude. Why can't the Magic be that? Why aren't the Magic that? Well, they are. They just don't necessarily have the offensive talent all the time. And this is like the thing that should inspire a lot of teams about the Pacers. How many teams? I mean, like, look, Indiana deserves to be where they are. I'm not trying to throw shade on Indiana. If they win the title, they'll have earned it. They are a matchup nightmare for everybody. They are a team that probably that somehow functions better in the playoffs. They rise to the challenge. They have earned this praise to be a model for every team because it doesn't feel like any team is that far away. Tyrese Halliburton, Richard Jefferson made this point. Tyrese Halliburton was kind of having a pedestrian game. He's their star. Now, he hit the big shot. Obviously, he gets all the glory. We're going to talk about him. But I look at that Pacers team still, and I just think to myself, the Magic aren't that far. The Magic have an identity. They have a defensive identity. They need to fix the offense, obviously, but they got the stars. They've got the culture that doesn't quit. They've got this ingrained in their head. We are going to keep fighting. We're going to play harder than you. And if they could just score a little bit, if they could convert off the turnovers they create, which Oklahoma City struggled to do in this game, then they would be in good shape. Then they would be a potential 4-5 seed. They would potentially be a kind of team that could push Cleveland, which they did 2 years ago, obviously. They could be the kind of team that gets this deep in the playoffs. Like, I am not joking here. If everything falls right, if the Magic get their offense straightened out, if the Magic are just average on offense, 13th, 12th, 14th, somewhere in there, so that's where Indiana is on defense, by the way, and defensive rating for the season, and click at the right time, they've got the top-end talent that has proven it will perform in the playoffs. They just need the help. What the Pacers showed us in game one and what the Pacers have showed us throughout this postseason is that the Magic aren't far away. I mentioned this on yesterday's episode. Credit to Indiana's defense. Down 15, down double digits for most of the second half. They never let Oklahoma City get away. They just hung around. They kept themselves in it and then found the spark. They know their offense is going to arrive at some point. It's always been making sure their defense is constant. And, honestly, like, that's the other lesson. Even if OKC would have won, I would sit here and tell you defense wins. The Magic having that defensive backbone is going to help them because some nights you're not going to be able to score and you've got to find a way. Oklahoma City did that for 3.5 quarters. 3 3/4 of a quarter. 3 3/4 of the game. The Pacers did it throughout. And even though their offense took a while to show up, their defense never let the game get out of hand. Their defense proved to be a backbone for them. And maybe we got to give them a lot more credit for the way they defend than they're getting right now. But how different is that than the Magic's formula? So if the Magic are able to get a point guard, are able to get some more shooting, find guys, have Wendell Carter bounce back. If Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's on the team, have him bounce back. Have Anthony Black take a leap. Franz and Paolo are going to do what they're going to do. Jalen Suggs will be back. Mo Wagner will be back. Why can't the Magic be in that position next year? It doesn't feel that far away because teams that know who they are, know their identity, and just get this irrational confidence, they're capable, especially in this East, but they're capable at any stage. The unfortunate thing about the Pacers winning is that, yes, it makes it feel like the regular season doesn't matter. It is prep for the playoffs. And that some teams, and the Pacers just might be this team, just thrive under the pressure and under the lights of the playoffs. Maybe if the Magic face the Pacers, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say the Magic would beat the Pacers in a 7-game series. I do think the Magic give the Pacers like unique problems that I think Oklahoma City will get around to here. But the Pacers win that series. The Magic can't score enough. But it won't take much for the Magic to get back to that level. And that's what excites me. That's what watching the Pacers does for me. Because, well, yes, some of their comebacks are just ridiculous. And the shot making and for lack of a better way to phrase this, the cojones of Tyrese Halliburton, it's one of one. Like, this is a special run they're going through over the last 2 years. This is special. And Indiana, even last year, they step up against better teams. And that's something the Magic have to be better at. The Magic did not have a good record against the best teams. They beat Cleveland once. They beat Boston once. They beat New York once. They beat Indiana twice. Those are your top teams. They've got swept by the Thunder. They lost both games to the Nuggets, I want to say. They beat Minnesota. They lost both games to Minnesota. They lost both games to Houston. They beat the Lakers twice. Like, they lost to the Clippers twice. The Magic have to be better against better teams. That's what Indiana is so good at. And that's why they're where they are. The Magic have to be better against better teams. That's going to come with better offense. That the Pacers have that innate character trait that I know the Magic have. They won't die. So you better kill them, Oklahoma City. You better kill them in game 2. Let's talk about the latest rumors, because there are some substantial rumors out there on the Orlando Magic, some rare droplets of information. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. During this part of the offseason, when there isn't much going on, I did see Jeff and say hi to him at the logo reveal event on Tuesday. But the Magic operate quietly. You asked me who the Magic have worked out for the draft, and I will tell you I have no clue. Our friend Cody Taylor from Locked On, or not Locked On, maybe he should be up from Locked On, but our friend Cody Taylor from Rookie Wire on USA Today Network tracks all the various workouts. There are some confirmed Magic workouts, but not very many. I don't know how Paolo would feel about Caleb Love being on the team, but Caleb Love is one of the workouts for the Magic. He is a second-round pick at this point. So the Magic are working. Let's make that clear. They are working, but as we know under Jeff Weltman, they don't publicize anything. They don't negotiate through the media. They don't leak information through the media. They keep everything very, very quiet and in-house. And so this week has been, and so I always say whenever something leaks about the Magic, it's usually not coming from the Magic. And so I always view it with a little bit of skepticism. I will say, however, we've gotten enough like trickles of information that we could piece together something about what the Magic are doing. Now, we talked about it earlier in the week, very earlier in the week, I think Monday, in fact, that the Magic were one of the teams reportedly interested in Nickeil Alexander-Walker from the Minnesota Timberwolves. We use that as a jumping off point to talk about how the Magic can get into free agency and how the Magic can get access to the non-taxpayer mid-level exception that is a contract or a set of contracts worth up to $14 million per year, what that would entail, what that would mean, what they would have to do to get there. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a fair target to go after. He's an excellent shooter, not a volume shooter, but a solid shooter, someone who would be great coming off the bench to give them that little bit of a boost that they need and maybe make a spot start here and there. That interest was later confirmed by Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype, who wrote that the Magic inquired about Nickeil Alexander-Walker during the trade deadline. So now we got two separate reporters confirming the Magic had some interest in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That's certainly enough for me to come to you and say, like, okay, this feels like something. This feels like it has a little bit of legs. Now, does that mean the Magic are chasing him this year? I don't know, but the interest is there. We have to acknowledge that. Again, Jeff Weltman kind of didn't confirm this specific rumor, but what we know that Jeff Weltman said was that at the trade deadline, the Magic were looking for expiring contracts. They found the price to acquire expiring contracts to be a little too high. That's one of the reasons they sat tight. I would suggest that one of the reasons they sat tight at the trade deadline too was they were expecting Jalen Suggs back. They didn't want two big shocks to the system as they were constantly trying to have to figure out new ways to win. Getting Jalen Suggs back would have been a huge, huge addition to the team and would have been like getting a player at the trade deadline anyway. So I understand the reasoning that the Magic didn't do anything at deadline. And frankly, outside of, maybe going after one of these bigger fish and having him for a half year, understanding who he is before you get into that contract year, like an Anthony Simons, like a Colin Sexton, like a Kobe White, like an Austin Reeves. Other than that, I understand. And frankly, the Magic worked. They went 12-6 over the last 18 games. They got the 7 seed. Things were falling apart a little bit, but again, they understood that they thought they were getting a big player back in Jalen Suggs. And by the time they realized that they were not, it was, past the deadline. Then we have this report from Jake Fisher of Yahoo. Not of Yahoo anymore. Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report. On a group chat, he put this note at the end of his YouTube live saying essentially he's expecting big activity from 2 teams this summer. The Toronto Raptors and the Orlando Magic. Now, he didn't attach any names. He said he's heard some things and some buzz that he needs to confirm before he reports. Always appreciate reporters who will confirm reports before they throw names out there. I will say this about Jake. He does have some connections and some ins with the Magic. He's written about the Magic in the past. Jake is a good guy. Jake is obviously a great reporter. He works with Mark Stein on his Substack, the People's Insider, as he likes to bill himself. I do trust what Jake Fisher is saying here. And obviously, I personally very much respect that he's not just throwing the names out there that he's heard. He is working to confirm them, which is admittedly difficult because the Magic do not talk to anybody. They do not leak anything from their end. So again, I always say rumors are usually a couple weeks behind, but this rumor is very, very clear. The Magic are making calls and trying to be a factor on the guard market. And we all know this. We all know the Magic need guards. They need a point guard. They need shooters. They need ball handling. They need creation. And that typically comes from your guards. And the Magic's guard play just hasn't been good enough. Jalen Suggs was hurt all year. Kentavious was hurt for most of the year. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope did not have the season the Magic were hoping for, and certainly isn't the creator the Magic needed. Cole Anthony disappeared a little bit in the playoffs. Corey Joseph was your starting point guard. As much as Corey Joseph stabilized things for this team, he is not your starting point guard. So it's the reason why I mention this is that it's reporting confirmation of something that we're like, oh, well, duh. And I'm cool with you saying, well, of course they're interested in guards, Philip. Like, why are you reporting this? I agree. It's now confirmed. It now feels like this is reporting the direction the Magic are going. Now, a lot can change before draft night. A lot can change over the next 2-3 weeks as we get ready for free agency, as we get ready for the offseason. Something else could pop up. Another opportunity could come up, and the Magic go in a different direction. The Magic go in a direction we don't expect. But I will say this. A lot of us are expecting the Magic to make a major move on draft night. I am expecting Magic to make a major move on draft night. I am expecting that they will swap a major player and get a starter level player. What I think a lot of us are not anticipating, or we're not anticipating before this week, and this was something I thought really hard about as I was doing the Locked On mock draft, was how do I get 2 of these guys? How do I get 2 major players onto my team? And I think this is the aggression and the direction the Magic are going. That they're not just going to add one kind of big name player and nibble on the edges and call it a day. They are going for 2 players. They're going to go get Anthony Simons and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or Kobe White and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or Colin Sexton and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or someone we're not thinking about. I know I've seen some fans push Jordan Poole. I'm not a Jordan Poole fan, but I've seen fans say, go get Jordan Poole. He's a $30 million player. If you're going to do that, just go get Trae Young. personally. Is a little more expensive, but you get the point. There's probably someone out there we're not thinking about that is available that we don't know is available yet. But like, it is very possible that the Magic end this offseason with one of those big names. Let's say Colin Sexton. I'm a big Sexton guy. They end up with Colin Sexton, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Royce O'Neal, and someone else, and take the 25th pick in the draft or the 16th pick in the draft, and take a rookie in. It feels very, very possible. It feels very, very real now that the Magic might be in the hunt for multiple fishes. They have multiple lines out there, and they're not just big game hunting or doing that big move and calling it a day. It feels like the Magic are going to transform this roster in a substantial and significant way. It had at least two, I would argue they need to add three, but at least two key rotation players, and then maybe a fringe rotation player to help boost this roster. Of course, we will see what ultimately happens. At this point, it is all speculation and rumor, but the Magic are in the rumor mill. They're in the gristle. They're feeling it, and we'll see what ultimately happens at the end of the day. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all things you download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. I'm starting to post extra notes from stories that I write on OrlandoMagicDaily.com there as well. Trying to shorten my articles on OrlandoMagicDaily.com. So if you want a little bit extra, they're going on my Patreon page, as well as player evaluations continuing over the weekend. I'm going to try and finish those up next week so we can start really diving into draft stuff. I'm not going to be doing draft profiles or anything like that, but I'll be diving into draft stuff here over the next few weeks as well. And we'll do a lot more draft stuff next week here on the show. Again, you can check that out at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done making Locked On Magic your first listen today, go make your second listen the Locked On NBA Big Board Show. NBA draft expert Rafael Barlow reacts to every workout, interview, and rumor leading up to the NBA draft. Find Locked On NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back next week with more on the offseason and plenty more about what's going on around the NBA. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.